Alright, we're doing a due date predictor Java programming project. Baby due date predictor. Enter the date of your last period. Let's say it was January 1st, 2016. Today is April 4th. So this is like 4 months ago. Baby is due on or around Friday, October 7th, 13 weeks pregnant, and the baby is the size of a lemon. So there's three things we need to do: the date, weeks pregnant, and the size. Also, there's going to be two exception cases. One is if it is, let's do yesterday's date, 2 days ago, 2016. It's too early to tell. And the other is, let's do a year ago, if it is past due, 04/04/2015. We'll come up with your past due. So let's get started. We're going to start over completely, but I'm going to copy and paste the exceptions. The first exception, parse exception, will just forces me to do it or it won't run, but I'll show you where that comes in. It doesn't really do much. The calendar and the date are going to be a little complicated. The calendar we're going to need in order to adjust the date, and the date we're going to need in order to determine the distance between two dates. Time unit we're going to need to convert because date is in milliseconds. Simple date format we're going to use because we're accepting in the format of month, day, year, and we're putting out with day of the week. The date format is going to do that. And the JOptionPane is going to be for making those cool windows pop up. So since I'm redoing it, I'm going to call it birth calendar 2. This is where we're going to put in the exception, the parse exception. And I only did this after it forced me to. I don't know why it won't let me, but oh well. Throws parse exception. I just did that when I was troubleshooting. Trouble. Okay, we're going to make 3 objects, calendar objects. One is for today. This is how you get a calendar object. One is for the date entered, the period cal. And I put the cal on the end because we're going to have a date also, so I'll do today date and a period date, just to keep them in order, keep my head straight. Calendar, and then the due cal. The due date is 280 days after the period date, I guess is custom. So 280 we're going to have to add to the date entered to determine the due date. Now in date form, we'll throw this in because we can while we're at it. Take a second and notice the today cal, which is the calendar object, has a get time that returns, let's see it, returns a date object, so we can get the time. And now we have a date form, and the date form is, it grabs today, but it's the number of milliseconds since January 1st, 1970, for whatever that matters. But we can use that to calculate the distance between today's date and the date of the last period, which will tell us how far along the mother is. Now, a simple date format, I call SDF the object, but you can call it whatever you want. Simple date format. And this is month. This is how we want it inputted, but you can play with it month, day, year. The other one is how we're going to output it. I call it SDF out. New simple date format. And this is going to be it spells out the day of the week. MMMM spells out the month. D1D is, in the case of a single, it doesn't say 09 if it's the 9th. It only puts the minimum number of digits. which reads better in a string. Next is string period date. We're going to input it, and that's going to be through JOptionPane, which is how you make the fancy windows come up. But it's going to return an object. Whatever we enter into that is going to be what is stored in a string form. Show input dialog, because it's inputting something. Baby due date predictor enter date last period d y. Okay, now it's in a string form, but we need it in a date form. So we're going to call a new thing called per date, and it's going to use this SDF to translate, to parse the string into a date object, and it's called period date. We're also going to change it into a calendar form, because we're going to need to change the date that was entered in order to get the due date. The due calendar, which we established up here, due cal, we're going to set that also to per date. And we're doing that only for a moment, because immediately we're going to add, we're adding days, so it's in date, and the number we're adding is 280. So that changes the calendar to 280 days, the due calendar. Now we need to convert it back to due as date, because we're going to need it in date form to output it. This is cumbersome, but this is how we're going to do it. So this returns that due cal that we added it to. So we took it, changed it, and now we're returning it to a date form. And it's called due as date. And we'll use this last. Next we're going to calculate. And we're going to do this with long because it's milliseconds, so there's a lot of them. And all this is today's date, get time is in long form, minus per date, get time. So that's the number of milliseconds between them, which is not what we want. We want the days, which is where we're going to use time unit. Time unit here. We're going to use that here. Time unit, what is it? Dot days. That's what we want it in. Convert. And what we're converting is between, and we're converting it from time unit dot milliseconds. Alright, so now we have in days. While we're at it, we're going to do, let's go back. Let's make it into weeks also. We're going to force it into an integer after we divide it by 7. So now we have the number of weeks. Now we're going to throw our weird cases, our short or long case. If days is less than 7. We're going to show it's just a show message dialog. With the show message you need a parent component which is null, just nothing is fine for our purposes. It's too early to tell. Alright, else if the other one in days is greater than 280. We're going to do the same thing. JOptionPane pane, show message, dialog, null, your past due. Else, now this is where everything's going to happen. Okay, let's take a breath and let's begin. To write, we're going to call a string. We'll build this string as we go. And we're going to call this thing, string thing. This is the thing, this is the lemon. So we're going to have to figure out what thing is. Now we're going to use a switch statement. And what we're switching is weeks, because you have to Google like how big the thing is after however many weeks, but that's what we're going to switch. That integer is going to become case 1. If you don't know switch statements, you need to learn. But maybe you'll learn here. Case 3. So this means in the case of the first 3, because it goes until it breaks. So case 1, case 2, case 3, thing equals a small seed. Now we're going to break. Oh. Case 4, thing equals a poppy seed. And you can Google, I don't know what, baby size calendar or something. Case 5, thing equals a peppercorn. Break. Case 6, thing equals a pomegranate seed. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Join me for part 2. I'm going to skip over all of the cases. I'll have them all entered, and maybe I'll put them in the description. Or if you want to Google them, you can do that. But join me for the other side in just a second.